her description of how it happened yesterday. Watch.
Why am I out? They asked me to resign. And in fact, they harassed me as I was driving back to the state office from West Point, Georgia yesterday. I had at least 3 calls telling me the White House wanted me to resign.
So the pressure came from the White House.
And the last one asked me to pull over to the side of the road and do it. She said, well, Shirley, they want you to pull over to the side of the road and do it, because you're going to be on Glenn Beck tonight.
I really truly believe they are trying to make me into the bully. I mean, she seems like a nice woman. She goes on to say those phone calls came from the USDA under Secretary Cheryl Cook. Let's look at this. Here's what happened. The first call came and she said, I have a 3.5-hour ride ahead of me. Second call, she's driving in the car. The third call, they finally call and say, just pull over to the side of the road. You have to resign. The White House wants it right now. Are you sitting down at the White House? Are you comfortable, Robert? May I call you Bobby Gibbs? Or do you prefer the Pillsbury spokesboy? I don't, because I don't. Here's my take on Shirley Sherrod. I don't think Shirley should have been fired. Or, I'm sorry, forced to resign. Based on the facts that we have right now, this is something that I wouldn't air and demand a resignation on. No, I wouldn't. Why? You know, when we did Van Jones and we had all those clips of Van Jones, do you know how many audio pieces we could have run, but we couldn't get the full context of the speech? Context matters. First of all, let me ask you this, Bobby. She says herself, this isn't about races being pitted against each other. That's what she says. This is not about racism, black versus white. It is about pitting the classes against each other. Watch again.
That's when it was revealed to me that you're in survival versus those who have.
Okay, all right. So it's about rich versus poor. Well, based on that belief, Shirley shouldn't have been fired at the White House. She should have been promoted in this administration. You should have made her the green job czar. Make her the regulatory czar, the manufacturing czar, or the energy czar, or the director of Medicare and Medicaid. She fits in with all you Maoists. She fits in with almost every single appointment from this administration. She wasn't talking about black and white. She was talking about the haves and the have-nots. It's class warfare that you guys love so much. Why didn't the USDA and Barack Obama wait until you knew all the facts? Why not? Something's not right here. There are other things to consider, but I don't know if any of them make sense. Maybe it's they just knew how bad this was. Maybe that's what it was. They want to let all the air out of the tire because they knew they couldn't survive it, which I don't believe for a second. Maybe they thought if this becomes a big enough deal, it gains traction, we're going to have to fire her anyway, and then people will feel like they won. Maybe that's what it is. Are you willing to throw this woman under the train tracks for that? You know what's happening here? Here's a woman who is guilty until proven innocent by the federal government. They fired her, and now they're all backpedaling. Why? There's no due process. Why didn't we talk about this story other than we didn't know about it at 5 o'clock Eastern Time? Why didn't we talk about this story yesterday? Oh, that's right. Because we were talking about how this administration doesn't believe American citizens have a right to a fair trial. They have politically assassinated this woman. No one has even heard the case for or against her yet. They just took her out. When did we stop having the right to face our accusers? The White House is watching today because they think I will be celebrating this as some kind of victory. Well, I won't, and I'm not. In fact, I never asked for a resignation of Van Jones. When everyone expected me to declare a victory, I asked for an explanation. That's all I've ever wanted, an explanation. I want to know how a revolutionary communist wound up in the White House. Did you know? When did you know it? Why didn't you fire him? Why'd you hire him? We never got that explanation. I think Shirley Sherrod is probably asking the same thing now. How the heck did I get ousted out of the USDA without an explanation on something that she claims All I was doing was telling you a pivot point. Pivot points build character. This administration is into character assassination without due process. This is what we talked about yesterday. This is how the administration does almost everything. They make Congress irrelevant. They do whatever they want. They make fair trials irrelevant. They do whatever they want. They announce plans to execute Americans without due process. Do whatever they want. That's how they got health care done. That's how they put another Marxist in as a director of Medicare and Medicaid. It's how everything is done. They decide. They control. Why are they getting rid of Shirley? Why? Why is she being made an example of? Where are the journalists on this? Oh, there is a million questions and a million Pulitzers waiting to be collected by these people who, let me ask, the moms and dads and the aunts and the uncles and the brothers and sisters of anybody who is a journalist, could you just call them up tonight and ask them, really, what is it that you're doing that is more important than asking real questions? If you see a journalist somewhere, ask them politely. Don't march on their lawn like you're a union member. Politely ask them, what is it that you're doing? Are you no longer intellectually curious? Is it that you know something that we don't know, besides what Lindsay Lohan wore to jail today? Journalists are supposed to ask questions and protect the republic. They won't talk about this story. What is going on with this story? Here's a question. Why was she forced to resign so quickly? Now, I suppose maybe they're afraid of the Tea Parties and you, Fox News. Maybe the Van Jones syndrome really kicked in at the White House and they just didn't want to deal with another one. I don't think so. Hadn't stopped them on other issues. Oh, they're afraid of Glenn Beck? Really? Healthcare, stimulus package, financial regulations, plowing forward, cap and trade, amnesty, BP. Really? Boy. They haven't made any strong statements about the controversy surrounding the Black Panthers of the NAACP, so what is it about this one? Could they be trying to minimize the damage, just like they did with Van Jones? Remember how the Mao-loving communications director, Anita Dunn, talked about controlling the media? They know that information is power. Are they controlling it for some unknown reason here? Since the NAACP hasn't released the tape in its entirety, yet maybe there are things even more incriminating on the tape. I don't know, but we'll find out now, I'm sure. Maybe they believe that with her gone, the whole thing goes away. No. It's possible that Shirley Sherrod is just a sacrificial lamb to placate Americans who are growing concerned over the obvious reverse racism we're seeing now. But that doesn't seem right either. It could be that the election's coming up and the polls are going south and they don't want another racist problem on their hands, but that doesn't work either. It could be that their shoes were too tight, or perhaps their heads weren't screwed on right. Or maybe, just maybe, the most likely reason of all was that their hearts were 2 sizes too small. Dr. Seuss makes more sense today. Here's what I think. Here's what I think could be happening. The NAACP, they didn't talk to her. They didn't talk to her at all. They didn't ask her for her side of the story. They didn't support her based on a soundbite. That doesn't make sense. Obama didn't talk to her about the tape, or anybody in the White House. They didn't get her side of the story. Let me ask you this question. Are we all held accountable for things we did 24 years ago? And if so, could you please, White House, explain Robert Byrd to me? Because I don't get that one. So here's what I think. Context matters. The NAACP has attacked the Tea Parties. Are there racists in the Tea Parties? Sure. Are there racists at the NAACP? Sure. Because there are racists in the general population. The NAACP attacks the Tea Parties and demands zero tolerance. That helps Obama because the Tea Party is on a witch hunt. They're trying to make sure there's zero tolerance. And then the NAACP, they find this tape. They know this speech will look bad for them, so they kill it. They assassinate Shirley to keep the pressure on the Tea Party. For political reasons, they take this woman out. Now the NAACP is under attack from both sides. And what they've learned is they can't treat their supporters like the general population yet. Context matters. Shirley, I don't think you should have been fired for this. Not that what you're saying is true. I don't know. We had more on Van Jones, but we didn't show it because context matters. Shirley says her turning point here is the context. Will anyone cover this? Will anyone cover this, or will it just be used for political purposes? You see, the key here is the media, and that's where we're going next.